Mark, the mechanical engineer from Missouri. Dad, I don't like to use the school bus. I wish I could go to school using my own drone. You want to go to school riding on your own drone, son? Sounds like you already have a plan. Is there something wrong with the school bus? Not really, Dad. It's just the ride is boring, and I wish I am able to fly to school. You have a drone toy that you like to play with. I think you have a quadcopter. I do, Dad. It is cool to pilot it outside, and even inside the house. Do you think if we modified it using your engineering skills it would be able to carry me? Although I am a mechanical engineer, son, I think we could think about it and see what it takes for a drone to carry you. What are the things we need to know first, Dad? We need to know and use a lot of math, son. I will try to make it as simple as possible. We will discuss the ideas and see how we can design and maybe build a drone like that. Is it like the math I take in school, Dad? A bit more than that, son. Not only math, but also physics, mechatronics, aerodynamics, and probably material science too. Why physics, Dad? And why the other things you mentioned? Well, son, the drone is pulled down by gravity, and if it is going to carry you, your weight is also pulling down on it. To make the drone fly and carry you with it, we need a force going upwards greater than the gravity force pulling downward. That will be the domain of physics and math. Aerodynamics is about designing this drone in a way that will make it stable when it takes off, when it floats and flies, and can land safely. It should glide or fly in the air with minimal resistance from wind. Also, we need to design the system that will fly the drone, and program it correctly so it can fly in different wind speeds and directions, and different weight limits and temperatures. Mechanical electronics, or mechatronics, can help us here. Finally, we need to decide on the material that we will use to make the drone and the cabin you will ride in. The drone should be able to carry you in different weather conditions, not just on clear and warm days. It should have heating and cooling, and have all the instruments needed for navigation. Probably we need to use GPS systems for accuracy. Wow, Dad. I thought we would just buy a cardboard box, attach it to the drone, and off I go. Yeah, son, if it was that easy, you'd see the sky full of people flying around in cardboard boxes. If it rains, the boxes will become soggy, and people will slip down from them. Not very safe. Thinking things through is the first step. Some like to call it ideation or generating ideas to solve a fun problem like this one. So what is the next step, Dad? We need to do some calculations, son. How much do you weigh right now? 50 pounds before dinner, Dad. My school bag weighs 7 pounds with all the books, laptop, and lunch bag. Let's say the drone needs to lift 60 pounds, because there is also the weight of your shoes, and your jacket, and heavier clothes on a cold day. 60 pounds will be the minimum, so we need to make sure it can do more than that, because there is also the drone weight itself, and its batteries. Let's say the number should be around 120 pounds of lift. If we include the cabin you will sit in, a small chair, a seat belt, windows, and instruments weight, the number will be much higher. So now we are talking about at least 400 pounds of lift. What if we choose light material to make the cabin and the seat, Dad? This is where material science is very helpful, son. The lighter the material, the less power we need to carry everything, and more power could be used to move the drone so it can go longer distances. We also need to make sure the drone cabin is safe, so the material needs to be light and sturdy at the same time. What will make the drone stable when it takes off, fly and land, Dad? Gyroscopes, son. These are amazing devices that will stabilize the drone. You can check videos of them online. They are spinning wheels within gimbals that will stabilize the drone. We can also use electronic gyroscopes. What will control the drone, Dad? The flight instruments. We will have an electronic board that will connect and control everything. It will control the motors that control the rotors, control the energy the batteries need to discharge, decide when to put the lights on, communicate with the gyroscopes to stabilize the drone, and coordinate with the motors and rotors so everything works in harmony. We must make sure the aerodynamics are right, so the drone does not tilt and hit things on its way. Mechatronics or mechanical electronics will help us here. It connects the electronics needed to fly to the mechanics of flying the drone. Will we use a remote like the one I use to control my drone? Probably not, son. While the remote is useful for short distances, and when you can see the drone, if we plan on sending you to school in a drone, I cannot run after you on the ground while you are flying above. It also doesn't make sense to ask your mom to drive behind you on the street, while I try to fly the drone you are in. So, we must rely on automation and GPS, or the Global Positioning System, which can easily guide the drone to your school and back home. Electrical, software, and communications engineering help here. There will be a screen where we input the destination address, and the autopilot program will then determine the best route to use, flight time, determine if weather conditions are suitable for flight, and whether the batteries have enough charge. Why can't I fly the drone myself, Dad? I know how to fly drones very well. I think you can, son. However, just like you need a license to drive cars or pilot a plane, we need a license to fly a drone that big. Also, your school should be equipped with a landing spot for your drone. Maybe the school roof could be a good landing space for drones. If many students use drones to commute to school, there will be less cars in the parking lot and more space for drone parking. So, I can't fly this drone to school tomorrow, Dad? There are so many things that need to happen before you could sit in a drone and fly to school, son. Probably the first and easiest part is creating the drone and making sure it works well. We can try to create something ourselves, however. This technology is already available today. The second thing is getting your school to have a landing and parking space for drones. While drones don't need a runway because they take off and land vertically, they still need some space. Then we need to get government approval for that. We need to contact the FAA or the Federal Aviation Administration for a license to fly a drone like that to school. They will ask many questions, especially safety questions, because it will carry you, and maybe other kids who like to do what you are trying to do. I didn't think about safety, Dad. What safety features will the drone have? It should have the ability to land safely if one of the motors or rotors got damaged in flight. I don't think a parachute will work because the drone will fly at low altitude. However, airbags might be used to cushion any emergency landing, just like what was used on Mars rover's vehicles. So, make a drone, get school and government approvals, and we are ready, Dad? Almost, son. We are not living on a farm by ourselves where you are flying yourself from the house to the barn and back. We are living in a city with streets, cars, electrical and communications wires everywhere, people walking and driving around, so the community will be involved. There will be strong supporters for the idea, and there will be strong opponents too. While the skies are almost empty above our heads, imagine what it will look like if everyone is flying themselves around in drones. Besides the safety issues of drones having accidents with other drones or buildings, which could be greatly reduced with good planning and safety engineering, there is the noise pollution. Do you know how your drone sounds when you fly it? Yes, Dad. It has a sound, but it is not that loud. Right, because it is small, and it is carrying nothing. Imagine a much bigger one, with more motors and rotors that are making that buzzing sound. And it is not your drone only, it is our neighbors and others flying to school and to work and back. Imagine the skies are now full of drones instead of cars. What will that sound like? Probably like a giant beehive with loudspeakers attached. I just wanted one drone for me, Dad, not for everyone on the planet. I understand, son. However, I am not the only mechanical engineer in the city or the country, and you are not the only one who might have thought about that. If the school says yes to you, It has to say yes to your colleagues who want the same. So, we need to think about others too. Why is it so complicated, Dad? Because we are not living alone, son. If we did live alone, you wouldn't need to go to school. You would just learn everything you want from the internet, and we would hunt and gather our food, or farm it. This sounds a lot simpler, but it is a lot harder to do. So can we still build this drone, Dad? We sure can work on it, son. Probably by the time it is ready for flight, things in the community have changed, and the idea of flying drones around to go to work and school is much more acceptable and affordable. Mark learned a lot from his dad about building drones and thinking about everything needed to create one. That evening he had a dream. Next morning, he woke his dad up to tell him about what he saw. "Good morning, Dad. I had a dream last night." "Good morning, son. What did you see?" "I became a mechanical engineer just like you, Dad. I designed and created a drone that was very safe, and I used it to go around. There were so many other drones flying around too. Different shapes and colors and sizes. People were sitting in their drones. Some carried only one person, others carried the whole family. No one was piloting their drones, Dad. Everything was automated. People were just sitting and chatting, while the drones flew around, taking off, flying, and landing all by themselves. Amazing dream, son. What else do you remember from your dream?" There were no cars or trucks anymore. The streets were empty. Everything was transported by drones. People, food, and the stuff people buy. Instead of following the street or highway route to a destination, we use drones. We just go to where we want to go in a straight line, Dad. I don't remember seeing any planes. People just used drones to go wherever they wanted. How was the sound like, son? I thought I was in a big beehive. I think I wanted to work on making these drones silent. That was the next thing I wanted to work on. That is a nice dream, son. I hope you become a successful mechanical engineer one day. I hope so too, Dad. Can't wait.